Are you a visual learner? Do you like to engage with drawing and art in the computer using technology? If you are, this session is for you. Let's dive into how being a visual learner can help you on your IT path. You are listening to the IT Path Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Morrison. Let's go and help you claim your journey into IT. This is Dana from IT Path here, where we want to get you going and keep you going on your IT journey. We are hoping that you will get unlocked and stay unlocked, making every day one step closer to a fulfilling career in IT. Whether you're a career hopeful or already working on an IT career, it is good to dream and think about what next step is for you. What next step can you take on your IT career path? If you're just getting into IT and you want to dream a little, dream big. Today, we're going to dive into the IT Path, IT Skills and Interest Report. This is a free report we offer at IT Path, itpath.net. You can go to itpath.net, fill out the form, and take the free assessment, and you will be graded on 8 personal skill data points and 8 additional personal interest data points. That's 8 personal skill data points and 8 personal interest data points for a total of 16 data points. These data points are the key to helping you find your starting point in IT. And I believe, with my experience helping others like you, coupled with over 25 years experience in IT, that understanding these data points will shorten your path to success. I've seen a lot. I've seen people come out of colleges frustrated. I've seen them spend a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy into pathways that they just don't end up taking. So how can I make this statement like that? How am I different? How am I different than a college? How am I different than you buying some magical course online that's just going to magically help you get into IT? Well, here's the deal. I've seen a lot, and I want to impart that wisdom to you. So let me help you by being your guide. I am just a guide. A guide can help you and encourage you, but it can't actually take action for you. So, however, if you are trying to find your career fulfillment path, making a shift into IT, if that idea resonates with your soul, then let's explore it. No risk, because you can go to itpath.net. You can take this free assessment. You can start to wrap your head around whether or not an IT career is for you, and then you can get going. So let's get all of the stuff out of the way that allows you to work on your IT journey, on your IT path. And let's do it in a way where you don't have to go spend thousands of dollars. Now, just to get, let's say, a associate's degree in IT is going to really, the low end is going to be $7,000. That's a 2-year program. It's going to be $7,000. And to get a 4-year college education, the very low end, like this is not including, obviously, meals on campus and all the extra stuff that comes with these 4-year. I mean, a 4-year degree can be an expensive proposition. And those are going to be at least $17,000. And that's probably in addition to taking into account some Pell Grants or other grants to help pay for your education. So let's not talk about spending a tremendous amount of money. That's my position. Let's figure out, first of all, does it resonate with you? We don't want you to go through a college education, an associate's degree, and then get frustrated on the other side. So, oh man, I spent all this money, but you know what? I really don't like IT. And I've heard people say that they've spent all of this money on this program, and now they're frustrated and they can't get unlocked and they can't get moving on their IT path because guess what? Maybe the path wasn't even for them, or perhaps they learned the wrong things in school. Perhaps they weren't focused on these data points where they resonate, right? So you're going to take this assessment, you're going to get graded on these 16 data points, and that is going to hopefully give you a starting point to work from. And then if you find out as you're going through this and everything is low, then probably IT isn't for you, especially if you get to the interest data points where there's 8 areas that you're interested in IT and you can grade them from 1 to 5, and you say you got 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, then probably IT is not for you. Probably think about rather than think about the IT interest side of that analysis, think about where your the top side of that is, where your personal skills lie, and then maybe that will help you think about where you want to pivot. All right, so let's explore this. And I'm going to go through these data points one at a time. We're going to spend some time in each of these. We're going to also look these up so that I can tell you like what the pay ranges are for some of these positions as we go through this. If there's opportunity for me to tell you some of my experience in these things and tell you some stories about them, I'm going to do that as we go along. But we're going to cover 16 data points through, I'm not sure how many episodes of this. It's probably going to take us a little while to get through all of this information, and that's okay. That's okay. We're just trying to get you taking a step. So if you're new to tech, or whether you've been in tech for a long time, if you've been in tech for a long time, or maybe even just a couple of years, I invite you to continue the evaluation of your spirit, of your soul. What resonates with you? Where do you want to be? What are you doing right now that you don't really like, that you want to try and correct, that you want to improve your path? You want to make more money, but you also don't want to put it at risk of just being like owned by the man who is just putting all of these projects on you, and it's unreasonable. If you heard way back in one of the earlier episodes, I discuss about how I walked into my first job as an auditor, working toward getting an auditor certification, CISA. And my first day on the job, 127 projects were dropped on my lap. 127. Stress went through the roof. And after I realized that the team really wasn't that much interested in working better, I was like, I got to get out of here. And if that's you, it doesn't matter if you're in IT or in something else. If that's you, you just do not like going to work, then let's figure out how you can enjoy your life. I don't think God intends us to resent our careers, resent these skills that we have, and then just be frustrated every day. I don't think that that's where our path leads us. Our path should be open, should be leading us to greater opportunity, greater freedom, and less restrictive. All right, so let's dive into the assessment. If you haven't done that, go and take the assessment. You can go to itpath.net. You can just plug in your email address. You're going to get the email with a link in it. The link's just going to open up. You're going to put in your name, and there's these 16 areas. And as we go through this, I will ask the question that I have on here, and then we'll dive in. So the first area on this assessment is visual. Visual learners can digest information they can see. Digest information. You can digest that information. You can ingest information you can see. Does this describe you? And you're just going to answer that 1 to 5. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, you're going to go through every one of those, by the way. Just do every one of them. If you got to pause this, come back to it, whatever, just do every one of those so you can kind of get an idea and get your report. All right. So then it says, Dana Morrison, here's your personalized IT skills and interest report. All right. Congratulations, blah, blah, blah. All right. Let's come down to visual. Visual learners can best ingest information they see. So where does that fit in the world of IT? That's a good question, right? Because we're just talking about how you learn right now. But let's actually flip this around. And now let's think about, because you're a visual learner, you probably also have some sort of a creative mind, and you like to do things that have a visual impact. So let's talk about entry level jobs along that line. And what I'm doing right now is I am pulling up salary.com. I have not prepped all of this information, just dropped it in here. Actually doing this on the fly. So let's figure out here what kind of salaries that even looks like, because that can be a motivating factor, right? If you know that you're going to enjoy it and you think you're going to get good pay at it too, hey, let's roll with that. So let's see. The first entry level job here says user interface, UI designer. Now we're going to assume that you're entry level on any of these. Okay, so that's the assumption. You're entry level. You've gotten some basic experience, and now you're ready to enter that entry level job with some sort of basic skills, some sort of basic experience that you can fall back on, that is going to help you move along on your IT career. So user interface UI designer. So I'm not doing by region, like I'm in the Raleigh area right now, but I'm not doing by region or any of that. I'm just going to give you the range of what salary.com says on these various roles. Okay. So this one here for user interface UI designer, and anytime we hear UI now, you should be thinking user interface UI designer entry level. The bottom end is 57K. The top end is 85K. The median is 69K, almost 70, 69,890. Okay. Now let's talk about what that is. UI designers create visually appealing and user-friendly interfaces for software applications, websites, mobile apps, anything like that. Visual people excel in this role as they have a natural inclination for creating aesthetically pleasing designs and understand how visual elements impact the user experience. So let's dive into that a little bit. What does that mean? That's a lot of information right there. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples from my own experience on this, and you can maybe translate this to yourself. One is in building applications, and it doesn't necessarily that you have to be this tight programmer with all of this, know all of these languages and all of this. It could be that maybe you're strong in some programming language, and you like to build applications. You like to build the buttons and all of that stuff. How is somebody going to interface with the app? That's kind of what you're asking here. How is somebody going to interface with this program, with this application? Some examples from my own history. Way back quite a while ago, I built a web app called Find It Freddy, and it was finditfreddy.com. And how the application worked was I had programmed that. Man, I did this from scratch, and honestly, I don't even know if I could replicate. I'm sure I could replicate what I did, but basically, what the application did, I was trying to get an the iPod Touch for our oldest son, Caleb. I was trying to order an iPod Touch. We wanted to have it for, I think it was his birthday, or I think it was probably Christmas. I wanted to have the iPod Touch for him for Christmas. And it was, they have the refurbished ones, right? And the colors would not be in stock. So you kind of had to wait until the color showed up in the refurbished store, because we were saving a lot of money. We were trying to do this on a budget, get him that on a budget. I can't remember what the retail cost was, $299 or $349 or something. I don't remember. But anyhow, they had them for like $179 or $199 or something like that on Apple's, what do they call that store? It's it's basically refurbished store. And so I wrote an app called Find It Freddy that would search a particular web page, and you could search that page and you could spit back if it found something. So I was specifically looking to see if blue existed, the color blue existed in the same page that they give you for all of the refurbished iPod Touches. And then I was like, well, this is pretty cool. I've got this thing running every day. What if I programmed this so that there was an interface and it wrote this stuff in a database, and somebody could go create a user account and they could start listing things that they were looking for and have it bring back when it was available. So it was basically kind of like an if then that kind of thing. So if it was available, somebody could put on, well, I'm looking for this particular brand of shoes in this particular size, but maybe Runner's Warehouse doesn't have it, and I want to know when it comes in stock. If you knew the page where that existed on and knew what the code should look like if that size was available, then you could actually input that into this application, this web application, and it would spit that back to you. And so figuring out, let's get back to the UI aspects of this. I had to figure out where the buttons should go, what the colors should be. I had to figure out the back end, and I had to figure out the whole thing. But as far as the UI goes, I wanted to make sure that this was graphically appealing for people to use. And I and a couple other people used it and tested it. And then I was just like, it's kind of like there's other programs, there's other sites out there that do this, if then that, and others. And so I was like, okay, this isn't really going to fly. So I basically took it offline, but it was a tremendous learning experience. I had to walk through all of that UI and figure all of that stuff out and try and figure out the button size and the corners on them, making them rounded, and kind of giving it some sort of aesthetic to bring that together to make a software package that would be beneficial to people that were looking for things online and wanted to know when they came in stock. So that was a little side project I did, and that's how UI actually applied into that. Now, in addition to that, I do a lot of Power Apps, and actually I don't do as much as I used to because I've got a coworker now that takes care of a lot of the programming aspects for me at the company I work with. But when you're planning out like a Power App in these pages that are going to have particular functions, you want to make it as easy as possible for the user to interface with it. And basically a Power App, if you don't know, a Power App is an application. It's a program in Office 365 where you can go to office.com, you can sign up for an Office account, you can get access to Power Apps. I think probably $15 a month is what I'm thinking. You get the basics. Now, if you're going to connect it with databases and all sorts of other things, I think there's another upcharge of like $10 or $14 or something like that. So basically for $30 a month, you can have access to being able to learn Power Apps and how that works. And it's very visual. It is all UI. There's underlying pieces of code, but they're pretty simple. It's pretty simple to get started with a basic application, and you can write flows and stuff that this thing talks to get information from other systems and all of that. But it is UI. It is UI driven. And there's a lot of need out there for actually the whole Power Stack from Microsoft. And there's Power BI, there's Power Apps, there's Power Automate, there's SharePoint, how that fits into all of that, and that's often referred to as the being able to program Microsoft Power applications, is being able to talk across these different things, and that's a way that you could actually even get started learning this, is to just buy a few months of Power Apps in Office, and you could get started at just $15 a month, and then you could say, okay, well, I want the extra features, and so I'm going to buy this additional license, which gives you some power features in there. But that can get you started. So Power Apps, you're doing a lot of stuff in Power Apps, a lot of applications for the business. I'm always thinking about how does the application serve the business, and how can we best program it for the people that are going to use it, and all of that. All right, let's move along. Let's talk about front-end web development. Front-end developers focus on the visual and interactive aspects of websites. They translate design mockups into working web pages using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And by the way, I'm reading straight off of the assessment right now, so you have access to the same information that I'm reading right here. Visual people thrive in this role as they bring some designs to life by implementing visually engaging and responsive interfaces. Responsive websites. So let's jump over now to salary.com and let's see if we can find something that has to do with front end web development. So let's just do entry level front end web development. I'm just, like I said, I'm just typing this in as I go. All right. So we have different levels of position here. And a lot of times in the IT world, and IT is not the only one to do this, but you're often going to see like a Roman numeral next to a position or a number, and that's 1, 2, 3. So you get up into the higher numbers or higher Roman numerals. That's going to be like a level 3 developer. Well, let's look at just the web front end development level 1. All right. So what do we have here for web development level 1? So this would be considered kind of like the entry level. You've got the basic skill, like I said, you've got, let's say, HTML, CSS, JavaScript for sure. You've got to have an understanding of those languages, and or CSS is how you style the web page. And the low end is 54K, and the high end is 75K, and in the middle is 68K. That's the median, right? So we've got 68K median here, and so low end you should be looking at 54K. So if you accept a position at 54K, if you're like, oh, you can get excited about getting 54K just to get started in this, then maybe this one is for you. So how does this apply to what I've done in my own what my own experience has been with this? And I would say, like I said, with the Find It Freddy thing, there was front end, back end, database, all sorts of things tied in together there. But that front end web development is where the UI bridged with how UI is nothing on its own. There's no such thing as UI by itself, standalone. It's going to be tied to something, right? It's going to be tied to a website. It's going to be tied to an application. It's, tied to something. It's, tied to brochures, really. When you think about graphics and how somebody's going to read and flow through a brochure, it's really the same thing. It's the interface. Just like the keyboard and the mouse are nothing by themselves. It's because they're an interface that's connected to the computer that makes them valuable tools. So the UI is nothing by itself, and now you're tying it to something. You're tying it to some front end web development. You're tying it to something that is tangible. All right. So the HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That's the foundation of how you're going to code things to look on a page. And the cool thing is in today's world, you can actually sit down and you can use AI and you can use just other programming tools to visually do this stuff on the fly and see your changes in real time. And it makes that work a lot easier than it used to be. It used to be that with HTML, you keep changing it, keep reloading your page, keep changing it, reload your page again. And go back and forth continually in this cycle, this seemingly never-ending cycle of making something a little bit better, just a little bit. I just want to tweak it just a little bit more. If you're that kind of person that just wants to make those things just a little bit better visually, then this could be your thing. You're working with CSS, with style sheets and JavaScript and HTML code on the back end, but the impact is the visual. So if you've got some visual and some programming aspects that tie together with you, then inside you, then that could be the way that you're wired, and you should be able to take advantage of that. All right, let's jump to the next one. I'm not going to spend some of these. I'm not going to spend as much time on as others. And that's because maybe my experience levels and my stories and things like that are not as deep in certain areas, but that's okay. So let's jump to the next one, graphic designer. And I'm going to put entry level in salary.com and let's see what pops up. Entry level graphic designer. All right, let's view this one. Okay, so this one is on a little bit lower end of the salary spectrum. So starting is almost 47, and the high end is 75. But you see, like it's actually not, the whole thing is not lower. It's actually just the range is larger. Probably because there's a lot of people out there in this field, and some people can secure this at a lower rate. So that's why the 46, 47 on the low end, and the high end being that, man, if you're really good at this and you're accomplished, you're probably going to get some decent money out of it. And then in the middle, you've got 59. Almost, it's 59 and $1. This is the median. So 59,000 in the middle, 46,000 at the low, for almost 47,000 at the low end, and 75 at the top end. Graphic designers, reading from the report, graphic designers use their creativity and visual skills to create visually compelling designs for various mediums, including print and digital. In the IT industry, graphic designers may work on designing marketing materials, logos, infographics, and other interface elements. Visual people are well suited for this role, as they can leverage their artistic abilities to produce visually appealing designs. And I just thought of another free way you can get started on this one. Canva. If you've never used Canva, Canva is a great way to just start messing around and try and create logos and things like that. So, but a graphic designer is going to be thinking about logo work, how you print something, its digital representation, all of that stuff, PDFs, maybe lead magnets for websites, different things that somebody's going to put in somebody's hands that they're going to interface with. So there is this does bridge, and you would say, well, this graphic design is basically a non-IT field, which is sad to say that, because I feel like I don't have I can't give you the numbers on this. I don't have quantitative evidence of this, but I do know that in various roles that I've worked in, graphic designers are often isolated from the IT groups within a company. Graphic artists are kind of like in their own silo, as we say. Silos being each IT support sometimes ends up being a silo. Marketing ends up being its own silo, and graphic designers often end up in that marketing silo. And silos can be bad because they can prevent cross communication with other aspects. However, graphic designers are interfacing with tech all the time. They're using Adobe products, they're using all sorts of different, just visual packages and things to do their work. And it's kind of sad to me that it has to be isolated so much. I do understand that the marketing aspects of the business is kind of its own animal, but on the same point, sometimes the IT aspects of the business the IT departments can often offer graphic designers some great ways to streamline, some great ways to use different automations and things in design. And there's division there. A lot of times there's a division. So working on logos, making infographics, all that sort of stuff, interface elements, all of those, interface elements basically being also tying back to UI, because maybe it's like, can you guys create me a button that looks like this product? And they make you a button with, and then you use it in the UI. So there is some interface back and forth between some of the IT aspects and the graphic designer. It's just, I'm a little disappointed in businesses that segment these things apart from each other and don't, because I feel like there's really some mutual benefit that both can have on each other. IT people can learn from graphic designers, and I think graphic designers can learn from the IT folks. So if they're melded together, I think that is a great thing. But that's not always the case. All right. Logos. Let's talk about that a little bit. I do have some experience with logos. itpath.net. I actually made that logo on itpath.net. I used Canva. I know some of you might look at the logos and cringe or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's about minimum viable product. Getting the site online and being able to help people is not, for me, it wasn't about, I'm going to go spend a lot of money on a logo. And at some point, if the site really takes off and I decide to get it redesigned, I'll probably give it to somebody and say, all right, you guys design me a logo. Do something a little nicer. A lot of logo work can happen out on websites like Fiverr and Upwork. If you're into logos, you're into creating things like that, designing things, maybe you've never even thought about that as being IT, and that's fine. If you already have those skills, you could just start firing up an Upwork account and offer some of that skill to other people and receive money for it. And I remember the first time I worked with somebody to build a logo is through some websites where you pay us $50 and we'll build your logo for you exactly like you want it with up to 10 revisions, or I don't remember exactly what it was. It was some crazy good deal. And so I was working on a project called Project Wind, projectwind.com, where I was doing some analysis for how much output you get for a certain size wind turbine at your home, and if it's going to be feasible. I was doing what's called a feasibility study, and I was also doing it for solar as well. So I had all sorts of calculations, a spreadsheet, and everything that helped with the angle of the sun and the positioning of the panels, and told you what your average output was going to be based off of the daylight hours, where you lived, and all this stuff. Well, I wanted this logo, and I wanted a wind turbine, but I wanted two different versions. I wanted a wind turbine that was still, and then I also wanted a GIF that the blades spun around. And I did get the logo finally completed through this company, but I mean, it was all janky, man. I had this, they had the blades on this thing wobbling in a circle, and I'm like, no, not like that. And it was a lot of back and forth till they finally got it right, but they did finally get it right. So if you just have some basic knowledge of logos, some fundamentals of art, you could actually probably start making money right now. There's probably no reason why you can't just move forward and get going. All right, we're going to take a break right here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the next two roles in this. We're also going to talk about some online courses and places that you can get training if you're a visual learner, if you like art and all of that. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Dana Morrison, host of the IT Path podcast, and I hope you are enjoying this week's episode. Are you interested in getting into IT? Let me ask you one simple question. What is holding you back? IT Path is dedicated to developing a community, content, and courses that will help you get unlocked and stay unlocked on your IT journey. I have more than 25 years experience in IT, and I want to share with you what I've learned and give you the tools to succeed on your very own IT path. Even if you are just starting out on your IT journey, we're here for you. To find out more, simply go to itpath.net and sign up for the mailing list, and we will start by sharing some tips, tricks, and tools to help you get going and keep you going. Go to itpath.net and claim your journey. Start your IT path today. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the episode. Okay, and we're back. We are talking about all of the interests that you have, where that aligns with your skills. And if you haven't taken the skills assessment from IT Path, go to the website, get the free link, and just fill it out. And we are talking about the visual learner right now, and what areas of IT where your expertise can go if you are a visual person, if you enjoy the visual aspects of what you do. And where we are right now is we just finished talking about the first three of these, user interface, a UI designer, front-end web developer, graphic designer, and now we're going to jump into multimedia specialist. Multimedia specialists develop multimedia content So this is like the YouTubers out there, videos, things like that, animations, and interactive presentations. And these things tie to IT in that the stack is in the tech, right? The stack is in your computer to do these things. So you've got to be able to have access to good tech, good understanding the fundamentals, file storage, and even networking, and how when I click this, I want that to happen, and all of those sorts of things. Logic has got to be part of this as well. So here's what it says: multimedia specialists develop multimedia content such as videos, animations, and interactive presentations. They work on e-learning modules. So like these courses that you see online, that could be part of this. Marketing material, product demos, all things that can help their companies move forward with visual, giving a visualization here. So visual people excel in this role as they can bring concepts to life using their visual and creative skills, incorporating various visual elements to engage and communicate with the audience effectively. So it's a communications is really, it really kind of bridges with communications as well. We're going to get to communications a bit later, but in visual aspects, it's also visual is it's a form of communication, right? So where's this lie as far as salary goes? And so I plugged this one in, and what we have is on the low end is 53K, the upper end is 85K, and the median is 67K. So this seems to be like a little bit higher median, especially than the last one we're talking about was graphic designer. This one's got a bit higher median to it, and it's going to be, again, applying the visual aspects to a business. And I'm trying to think of in my own world, in my own experience in tech, multimedia. I've done multimedia classes before. I've taught multimedia in a school system, and we used iMovie. We used from Apple, Mac. We used iMovie. We did some stuff with audio. We did some stuff with editing. We didn't really do a whole lot with animations, but it was not hard to learn some of the basics, some of the fundamentals. And we even tied in with this. A lot of schools would be like, oh, just mess around with iMovie, make up a movie, make up a video or whatever. However, the multimedia specialist in this respect is going to also be bridging art into what they do. It's not just about taking clips and putting it together. It's also about the artwork and artwork aspects, like understanding the colors that you're working with in the video. And sometimes in marketing and all of that, you're going to be dealing with Pantone and making sure that the visual representation on the screen is the same as what the product actually is. And so that's going to come into this too, especially if you get into like product demos that have to do with, like I work in clothing. And so maybe a product demo is maybe something on a computer or whatever, and that's going to need to match what the actual product looks like. So visual people, excel in this because, again, you're just you like this. If you like this sort of thing, then you're probably out there already making videos, right? You're probably already taking some action because you enjoy it. So if making videos and that sort of thing is exciting to you and that's what you like to do, and I don't mean just like throwing up the little video here and there on YouTube, the little some of the time wasters, right? I mean actually making video content that matters to people and helps them move forward in their on their own path. So that can be a very good thing, and it can be very valuable if you can do that in a way and communicate via video effectively, right? It says communicate with the audience effectively. That is really the key on this one. All right, let's jump to the last entry level role that we have with this particular category of being a visual learner. And that one is Technical Illustrator. And let's do entry level. Make sure we're trying to isolate the entry level jobs here. Technical Illustrator says the low end is 49K, the high end is 93. Wow. Why the big difference? Technical Illustrator jumps up like 6K more on the high end than the multimedia specialist. That's interesting to me. The median is 65K. So it seems like the median is pretty close. All right, technical illustrators create visual representations of technical concepts, products, and processes using illustrations, diagrams, 3D models, that sort of thing. They may work closely with technical writers on subject matter experts to create visual documentation, user manuals, and or instruction manuals. Visual people are well suited for this role as they can visualize complex concepts and translate them into easily understandable and visually appealing visuals. Now, before going through this myself, I'm like, I wouldn't think of myself as a technical illustrator. But when I put it in the context of what I just read, a technical illustrator is, I am definitely a technical illustrator. I love to take hard, challenging concepts and visualize them in a way that I can present to other people. So often, my boss says to me, I don't understand. Walk me through it. Walk me through it. And sometimes I'll even create a visual and I think, oh, this totally makes sense. And then my boss will be, I'm not sure if I understand this. Well, I'm trying to get my visual to a point that I can show it to my boss. It's like, oh, I get it. And now I'm getting in more of that cadence, more of that rhythm where I can take some documentation, some manual, something that I've been working on, some diagram and show it to my boss. And then he's like, he takes a minute to digest it. He's very visual. He's very, very visual. He's definitely on this side of the spectrum. And he'll look at my diagram. He says, well, give me a minute. And then a few seconds later, it's like, okay, I got it. I understand. And then we'll talk about the visual. And he's like, okay, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we need to make this change. We need to talk about this process. We need to fix this, what's going on here. We also need to fix how that relates to this other piece of information. Very, very visual understanding, like grasping what that diagram is trying to say. 3D models. So if you're like into 3D modeling, man, this is a great field. It's a great, great field to get into right now. If your company or business or you're not a company or business, probably. Well, you might be, I guess. If we got some business owners here, this is something that you want to be leveraging now. I would say AI and 3D are two things that you really want to be leveraging with your employees. And there's a huge opportunity in this market because there's a lot of 3D modelers out there, but there's the ones that are doing a really good job, that are really thinking through and making models that are nice and clean, is probably not that many. My son, who's 23, 23. My oldest son, who's 23, is big into 3D. He has spent over the 10,000. There's a rule called the 10,000 hour rule. I don't know if you've heard of this. Basically, if you've been doing something for 10,000 hours, you become an expert at it. And Caleb is an expert at 3D. He knows this software package is free Blender. He knows it inside and out. He can create things. He's amazing, amazing stuff. And lighting and all of that, he understands it, and he understands the importance of building from a good foundation. Technical illustrators are going to take that understanding, what is a really good foundation, and they're going to layer on top of it. the diagrams and all of that. If you do not understand the foundations of processes, you are not going to do well in this. So if you're that kind of person that says, why does it work this way? I want to know more. This technical illustrator kind of role might be what you're looking for, to be able to take those concepts, make them so that other people can understand them. Obviously, it's also going to be a strong communication role. Even though you're doing this visually, just like the multimedia specialist, you need to be able to be a strong communicator. However, you're communicating again through visual aspects, documentation, manuals. If you like writing, that's going to tie into this, no doubt. Visual people are well suited because they can visualize complex concepts and translate them. You're taking the heart, like you ever talk to somebody who's uh, very polished on their library of words, and they start throwing out plethora and all of these longer words. You're like, I don't know, what does that mean? So it's like you're boiling down the complexity and putting it into common English. That's what you're doing in a technical illustrator role. All right, we're going to pivot now. We're going to pivot into suggested training for everything we've just talked about. And I'm not going to go through them like UI. Here's what we've covered so far. We've talked about UI designer, that's the user interface designer, front-end web development, graphic designers, multimedia specialists, technical illustrators, and now we're going to dive into some suggested training. Now, this suggested training, I'm not going to tie it directly to the different roles, the entry-level roles that we just talked about. You need to be able to do that yourself, because maybe if you're a visual learner, something stood out for you probably. All right, something just stood out that we just covered. And now it's a matter of, what are the gaps? I'd like to get into that. I'd like to learn more, but I'm really not sure where to get started. So I'm going to give you some places to explore. I can't handhold you through this process of exploration. This is something that you need to go through on your own. Now, we could get into a call. We could get into a kind of like a discovery call and talk about it, but you need to be taking some action. And what do you take for action now that you've heard these roles and you say, I'm a visual learner. Yes, I want to learn this. What do I do? You've got to take action by doing some exploration. All right. That is where you need to go right now. So let's talk about exploring the opportunities for learning as it ties into this. And I already mentioned a couple. I said Power Apps, right? And that's cheap. Some of these are going to be free. Some of these are going to be cheap. Some of these are going to be more expensive. That's just the way it's going to go. All right. Not all training is free. However, there are tremendous amount of free training in our world today. But I've already mentioned a couple of them. One was using Power Apps in Microsoft Office. So that's in like the Microsoft 365 suite. You can sign up for that for about $15, and then you can add on to that another $15 to get the Premier tools that are part of Power Apps. And that's going to be a way that you can learn Power. Now, you can learn Power Apps without the additionals. You can learn Power Apps with just a $15 a month. There's a lot of great things that you can do with Power Apps. However, if you're going to start connecting it to outside resources, if you want your Power App to look stuff up on a web page for you or different things like that, you're going to, or a database or something, then you're going to require the additional license fee. I don't know exactly what that is. It's not terribly expensive. So for like $30 a month, you could be in Power Apps and you can be building applications, getting some experience with that, and getting some experience with SharePoint and the Power Automate and all of that. All right. So I've already mentioned that. And let's see. I also already mentioned Canva, which is, if you can get started with Canva for free, and that was for if you are a person that likes to mess around with logos. that is a place that you can start getting some experience, just building your own things and trying to visualize logos and things like that, or slide decks, to anything that is really UI related. You can actually mess around with Canva and just have fun. So Canva and Power Apps, a couple ways that you can, as far as UI stuff and all of that goes, but they also apply to a lot of these other ones as well. But like I said, I'm not going to try and tie them specifically to the role. All right. So online courses, where can you go for some online courses on the cheap? Well, there's Udemy for sure. Udemy has a lot of courses that are inexpensive, like a lot of them like 10, 15, 20 bucks. You can take a course on Udemy and, around the idea of what you're trying to learn. Now, training itself is just an empty shell. It's actually when you take the training and you start applying it, that is the experience. And that is where you want to get to on your journey. And I'm going to be emphasizing that over and over and over again. So you got to let that drill in. From my 25 years experience, I'm trying to give you some wisdom here. And that wisdom states that experience is more powerful than the course, than the certificate. A certificate is a piece of paper with writing on it that says, I can take tests. I can learn and take tests. It's a learner. It's not practice. And I had somebody years ago that I feel like I kind of got snoozled by them because I thought they were going to be a good programmer. And then I found out that they did well in college, but they actually couldn't cut it. They couldn't program. This was about 5 or 10 years ago. And I was frustrated. I was so frustrated with it, with the college education that this person had received, because I'm like, how could this person get through this course and pass all of this and not understand some of these fundamental concepts? So there was learning and understanding are really not exactly the same thing. You can take tests, but can you apply it? So you're going to need to apply these in some way. You're going to need to start building experience as you go through the course. If you do that while you go through the course, Sudoku, see one, do one, teach one. See it, see how they're doing it, go practice it, do it, right? And then teach it. Show somebody else how you did it. And that is going to maximize this opportunity. It's going to transition you from learning to experience. And that is what we're looking for with people entering their IT path. When you have experience, that is going to take you further. Okay, I regress. And we're running out of time here. I know I've gone long on this first episode of this, walking through this. And thank you for hanging in here, because now we're getting to this point where let's talk about these resources. Okay, so Udemy is inexpensive. You can get courses from 15, 20 bucks. So some of them are more expensive, but for the most part, you can get some good courses on Udemy. So start searching some of the things that you're interested in on Udemy. Coursera. Coursera has, I think it's a subscription model. So you're going to pay like 50 or 59 bucks a month, something like that. Then you're going to have access to over 7,000 courses that they have. And edX is another one that gives you opportunity for a wide range of courses online. I think edX is going to be a little bit more expensive. So that's going to be maybe on the upper end. So for web development guides, graphic design, multimedia production, technical illustration, all of those things, you should be able to find content on those. And I would suggest start the cheapest. Well, what's the cheapest? Start with some YouTube tutorials. YouTube's a great place for this. Now, just don't go for the entertainment value. You've actually got to be pulling stuff out and practicing it. But YouTube tutorials is a great way to start. So you can, find somebody on YouTube, start following them, and dive into some of those free courses or free tutorials on YouTube. It's going to drive you a little further, and then you're going to get to a place where you're like, okay, I want to try that Udemy course for 10 bucks. How cheap is that to get started? All right. Now let's talk more about free, because we've talked about YouTube, but let's talk about internships and apprenticeships. That is a free way to get going in this career. So yeah, you're going to need to start. This is going to be where, pardon the expression, where the rubber meets the road, because you are going to be you're taking what you've learned and you're applying it. You're getting a real world experience in an internship or apprenticeship. So you're going to have to build some base knowledge to get that internship. There's no question. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to get to a place where some internship or apprenticeship isn't going to be like, oh, this person's just going to suck my time and energy because they don't know anything. No, you've got to get that base knowledge. So get that base knowledge up, and then you can start applying it. And that could very easily transition into a job, a career, jobs to careers, right? And you're going to have to get a job first. You're just going to have to. And then you can get into your career. All right. Online design communities. You can join communities like Dribble, that's Dribble, or Behance, Behance. You can connect with other visual professionals in these places. You can showcase work and you can get feedback and all of that. So that's a couple online community ideas. Facebook, for certain. I hate to recommend I just really don't like recommending social media for this. I'm hesitant. It's a great way to get connected, but the problem is social media by design is a time suck. So it's going to waste your time and energy. And if it's not going to help you get going, then don't do it. But if you're just looking to make some connections, Facebook, LinkedIn, other social media, you can start following, really probably a lot of stuff on Instagram. You find some people that are doing a lot of cool visual stuff and start asking questions. All right, personal projects. And this is the best one, in my opinion. You do something to take a personal project and you start practicing it. Create a website, design graphics, design some multimedia content, put it online. And guess what? You can do this for free. In fact, a system that's systeme.io allows you to set up a free website where you could even try and sell something on that website. So you could actually be building out a site and getting experience with these skills at the same time. Wow, that was a lot of information we just unloaded there for you. And I hope that it's helpful. So let's move forward. Let's claim your journey and let's get going. Are you a visual person? Are you a visual learner? Dive in and move. Take action. Stop sitting on your hands, waiting for some career to fall in your lap. It's not going to happen that way. It happens by grit, by hard work. So get out there and do something and learn something new today and apply it. And man, I'd love to see that. So if you're working on something, you've got a project that you're working on, email me, dana@itpath.net. Maybe you already have a visual project, a website, something. Email me, dana@itpath.net. I'd love to get connected. You can find me on LinkedIn, and let's just go. Claim that journey, get you moving. This is Dana from IT Path signing out. Have an awesome day. You have been listening to the IT Path podcast. Did you like this episode? Why not subscribe and share with others? IT Path is dedicated to helping you claim your IT journey. You can find out more at itpath.net.